There's a lot of myths out there. Some of them have been genuine from the past in terms of range and various other things and infrastructure. And a lot of those have been overcome with investment in charging, the updated technology, and then some just lies. So you need to have a reputable resource to rely on to counter those.
So the cost of EVs is one of the most common myths in relation to EV adoption. People think that it's too expensive. The running cost of EVs are so much cheaper than a petrol car. So it costs $700 to charge a car per annum, compared to over $2,000 to fill up your petrol car with fuel. That's a 70% saving in fuel costs alone. And the maintenance cost on EVs is also substantially lower than ICE vehicles because they have less moving parts to maintain.
I think the vast majority of EV charging will occur at home, and that's one of the great advantages of EVs, that it's very convenient to charge an electric vehicle at your own house. And in terms of charging elsewhere, I guess it's no secret that public EV charging network is growing, and that's a process that we're going through. But as time passes, we have more and more public chargers that are becoming available. They're becoming increasingly widespread in convenient locations. They're also becoming increasingly reliable, and there's a diverse range of options of where and how those are provided and by who they're provided by.
One of the other objections of EVs is that they don't have enough range. But the technology for EVs have improved so much that the typical range in an EV now is over 400 kilometres in one charge. The typical Australian drive 15 to 20 kilometres a day, so EVs have more than sufficient range for your everyday driving needs.
There's a misconception sometimes that the emissions profile of an EV over the course of its life is actually higher than an ICE vehicle. That's not true. There's a range of studies that analyse the life cycle emissions of EVs versus their combustion engine counterparts, and over the course of their life, EVs have got a much lower emissions profile. They produce much fewer emissions than ICE vehicles.
But one thing you should realise also with a battery in an EV can be recycled many times, so then given a second life, so it becomes a house battery or a battery for another application. If it's got 70% of its charge, it still can work in another application. And then ultimately, as it degrades over the years, they can recycle it and it becomes a new battery.
One of the other objections to EV adoption is that the charging of EVs will overwhelm the power grid, and this is not true at all. Origin conducted an EV smart charging trial back in 2020 to show that smart charging can help manage the time at which these EVs are being charged to not only not burden the grid, but also create value for the power system. There's a lot of excess solar during the middle of the day, and EVs are perfect to soak up that excess power. So might as well charge them, soak up that excess power. And when vehicle to grid becomes available, the EVs can actually feed this power back to the grid to help the power system in times of high demand or system constraint. One of the most recent myths about EVs is that EV charging is a fire hazard. But the facts are, petrol cars are 20 to 80 times more likely to catch on fire than an EV. So getting this fact out there, getting this data out there that's collected by EV FireSafe can help dispel this myth and get people more comfortable in driving and charging an EV.
It would come as a surprise to nobody that there's been a lot of misinformation about EVs and the experiences or the frustrations that people face when they're switching from an ICE to an EV. I think it's really important for people in the community and for local community organisations and local government to share that information, share impartial stories about how they find the experience of driving an EV.